Hello and welcome to the second edition of Sunday Séance. This is Andrew. I'm here with Grant and Mitch. How are you guys doing this morning?
A lot better when we come in with the specials.
Yeah, I mean, we got to do it. We got to do it, right?
Yeah.
You know, you like Mitch. I am alive. I feel like.
I feel a lot better now than I did when I woke up.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Head was a little glassy this morning.
a little bit. Yeah. So let's talk, like we could talk about the after the game festivities at some point here, but let's talk a little bit about the game. So it was a 0-0 draw with top of the league Charlotte Independence last night. It felt to me like we're still unbeaten, which is great. 4 games into the season, still without a loss, feels good, but it feels to me like this is a game that we could have won. We could have made something from it. I think both teams will probably be feeling like that, though, after the last night. To me, at least, it felt like a goalkeeper battle.
Yeah.
Both Austin Pack and Baron Shipman kind of played very, very good games.
Yep.
I think overall it felt to me like Madison's defense probably had a little bit better game. And Charlotte's offense was a little less productive, I think, than they usually are, and definitely less looked less dangerous than our offense did. Austin Pack had 7 saves last night. I think that's the second highest amount of saves he's had in a single game so far this season.
Yep.
I think he had 9 a couple of weeks ago.
He had some good saves too. I mean,
he's been excellent.
I think our best opportunity was probably one that there's no way he would have been able to touch, and that was Jake Krull's screamer that smashed off the post in the upper 90. I mean,
yep,
couple inches lower, there's no way that Pack can get to that. But Jake's getting close. He's getting close. I mean, this is 2 league games in a row that he's had some great opportunities to score early in the match. So he's getting close. You got to think that one of these he's gonna bang one of these home pretty soon. So
yeah, I would hope so. Overall, what were you guys' impressions of the game?
Go ahead, Mitch.
I mean, this was going to be a tough game regardless. Even though Charlotte was missing a couple of their players, they are the best. They are top of the table for a reason. Right. Both teams still undefeated. Did we have opportunities to win that match? Yes. Did they have opportunities to win that match? Yes. If you told me before the game that we were going to draw them 0-0, I would have been fine with that. And I still feel that way. This is something that you can carry, we can carry this into the Knoxville game on Wednesday. We're still undefeated. We're going in against a Knoxville team that's reeling. They're playing today against Fuego. If they lose that game to Fuego, which Fuego, as of right now, is the worst team in the league. They lose that game to Fuego, they're going to be hurting real bad. So, no, I feel good. I feel positive about it. Not as positive as I would be after a win, obviously, but I don't think there's any real reason to feel too negative about it. We had a lot of chances. We just didn't put them in the net, and the finishing will come, I think. One thing I did notice early in the match that kind of petered off later in the match that I wanted to bring up was they were doing a lot of balls from the defense over the top, trying to get Cheney. Kind of similar to what we did late in the season in 2021 with Trim trying to get balls over the top, and I think that was purposeful. I think that Charlotte has an extremely good forward core in midfield, and their defense is a little bit more lacking. So if you can get the ball past that midfield straight away, I think that's what they were trying to do there. Just if you can get the ball past the midfield and get it into the defense, and it didn't work out too well. But I think that's partially just because we haven't seen a lot of that over the course of the season. I don't know how much they've practiced that. You know, how many teams are you going to do that against in the league?
And I noticed too, Mitch, that you know, Charlotte, they typically that method of play works because the other team is pressing high, you know, within the midfield and forwards. We didn't see a lot of that where they weren't pressing. You saw some like when the ball would be given away, the ball would be given away. Yeah. But then it's like they stepped back and like they kind of fell back into the defense a little bit more. And so
that's probably why we stopped doing it.
Yeah.
So that's a good shout. I think
will say very late in the game, Wolfgang Amadeus Prentice, as everybody knows him. Yes. Can't forget the suffix. Puts a very nice ball in from the wing for Cheney, who almost buries it with his head.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know what did you guys, well, actually, before we get too far into it, we're going to welcome Kyle Carr in to share his thoughts about the game. Kyle, how are you today?
He's muted.
You're muted, buddy.
That's how he's feeling.
That's how he's doing.
There he is.
I've been up since 6:30. You can tell. No, I've been good. It's been a struggle this morning, apparently, but no, things are fine. Rewatched the match this morning, and I think a draw is a fair result.
I would agree.
Yeah, I know, Andrew, you mentioned that it was a keeper battle, which I 100% agree with. I think Charlotte in the first half could have probably gotten a goal or two. Thankfully, Cheney was able to kind of stick his leg out to block that, or else that probably was going to be a goal. Pack is probably going to be the player of the month in April, and at the rate he's going, keeper of the season.
Yeah, he deserves the accolades. He was top notch last night.
Yeah. I mean, that was going to be my point too, Kyle, this was a game of Austin Pack. I mean, he looked good. He looked really good. I mean, even after the game, Cheney kind of looked at me, goes, "Best goal in the league, man." He goes, best goal in the league.
And I know, Kyle, you tweeted this out pretty recently today. He's looking like a player, not only a player of the month candidate, but if he keeps this up over the course of the season, he's going to be player of the year. Like
100%.
And you don't see goalies win player of the year, but the way he's playing, he deserves that.
It's one of those where
we're early in the season. We're very early in the season. But the way he's playing, Jesus Christ, man.
I think the thing too, and Mitch, this kind of goes into a previous point that you had made about their defense. I think the thing it's very underlooked about Pack is his distribution. He's really good at distributing that ball up into the midfield right from the box. And that just, you can see how that just kind of generates their entire attack because they don't want to build from the back. They want to kind of build from the midfield.
With a weak defense, I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. The fact that his defense trusts him enough, like he is out claiming every ball. If it's in the air and it's close, he's going to go out and claim it. And I think to have that confidence and be that aggressive is something that you don't see in this level a lot from keepers. So the fact that he's kind of able to just do that right from the jump. I mean, no, Austin Pack has done really well. And like I said, Fort Madison probably could have gotten a goal or two in the second half. But I think overall, I want to give a shout out to Fort Madison's defense because that whole second half, they didn't give Charlotte any clear-cut chance.
No.
Like that to contain that kind of attack with Bennett, with Dane Kelly, with Mbuyu, with Ibarra, it's impressive they didn't allow any clear-cut chance in the second half. So props to the defense there.
I really want to call out Kyle. I think you're spot on. Just to share some stats. I'm stealing your job, Mitch. Osmond had a very calm yet stellar performance. He had a 7.8 rating on FOTMob. 84% passing, 2 of 2 tackles won, 7 of 8 duels won, and 7 recoveries on the night. You didn't hear his name mentioned very often, which I mean,
as a defender, that's a good thing, kind of.
It's kind of how it is for defenders. But another interesting wild stat to me, Austin Pack has 21 saves and 3 shutouts in April. 21 saves in a single month.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
He has
So,
been crazy.
Kyle, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, we had a ton of opportunities, which we've been seeing. Hey Sterling, how you doing? We've been seeing these opportunities coming. Haven't always put them. Obviously in the Greenville game, the dam broke. We scored 4, but we had a ton of opportunities in Lexington, and we didn't score. We had a bunch of opportunities in Omaha, and we only got 1. Is it somewhat concerning that we're getting opportunities and not scoring, or is it a good thing that we're actually getting the opportunities and eventually they're going to start finding the back of the net?
I'd say it's a good thing just because, no Jaden Onan, and Macias kind of fills in his spot, and it doesn't look like they miss a beat in terms of getting those chances created. So I think that's encouraging. There wasn't really that many chances where I kind of looked and was like, Madison should have scored that. Even Cheney's chance at near the end of the first half that got saved by Pack. It's like, that's a tight angle. He could try and rip it near post, but that's an ambitious shot there. So I'm not concerned yet, just because the Greenville game did show they are capable of finishing. And the chances were there. There wasn't as many great chances yesterday as there has been in Lexington and in Omaha. Those 2 games would probably have made me more concerned, but last night there wasn't that many where I was kind of they should have scored 3 or 4. This game was 1 or 2 would have been fine, but again, Pack is good and there's not too much. So I'm not concerned yet. I think if anything, I'm still encouraged because, like I said, Macias comes in, fills in Onan's role. Team doesn't miss a beat. You had Cello was fantastic with distribution. And one of the things that I think was the big difference was Madison played more through their midfield than they did out wide. And especially, I think Charlotte made it a point to not let Gebhard get the ball too much deeper down the field.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, in terms of the chances in this game, the 2 real chances I thought we had were the one that Andrew brought up was Cheney's at the end with the header. And the one I brought up was Kroll, it was Jacob Kroll's bringing it off the post in the first half.
Yeah.
That was about it. Those were the only 2 where I thought Morrill had a good chance in the first half too, that Pack tipped over. Kind of a blast from the right side of the box. I thought that one was, but that would have been an amazing goal on a turn to nail that home. But, I agree with you. I thought that there was really only probably 2 chances where I thought probably should have scored there. But other than that, I think it was, the chances are there, and I'm with you, is that it's positive to see these chances happening. And that, I think it's only a matter of time. So,
and as long as your defense is still locking teams down, that's to me that's going to be more important. You're going to get points with a good defense. And the 2 goals that they've allowed this year, one was a header off of a corner, which, that's a set piece, is what it is. Another was a wonder goal from Pilato.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. Kyle, what did you make of the tactics of the formation last night? It looked again like we were kind of shifting in transition, going from 3 at the back to 4 at the back when on defense. Things look definitely more solid on defense. We had a hard time unlocking them in the final third, though.
Yeah, it was interesting because it felt like it was a 3 in the back when they were defending, but in possession, it kind of shifted back to that 4, almost like a 4-4-1-1 or almost a diamond. It felt like it was definitely one of those where they kind of let Payne just float around and hang out more in the midfield when they had the ball, but then off ball, he was kind of being more of a defense wing back, while with Kroll, it was definitely more of a left center back out of possession, left back in possession. And I think the toughest part was because Charlotte has been very compact defensively. I think that's kind of been their main thing. I think they learned from last year. Yes, we have all these attackers, we have all these midfielders, but we can't continuously go guns blazing. That we are going to turn more into a direct countering team because we have the speed and we have the guys. So it was a little bit harder to unlock in the final third just because Charlotte definitely went with more of that 4-4, like 2 low block. Easy there, Desmond. Easy. More like the 4-4-2 low block kind of style, which I think made it harder for Madison to unlock. But I think it's just one of those where Charlotte's done really well defensively, which is surprising. I think because they've been more compact. So definitely a 3 in the back out of possession, 4 in the back in possession. Like I said, they built more through the midfield, so it kind of forced Payne and Derek to kind of play more narrow, like not being able to go out as wide. But I think that's probably a good thing because there was times in the second half where Madison was easily able to break Charlotte's press.
Right.
And that was a huge thing. And I think that's why, as the game got on, I was like, okay, there's more of a chance that Madison could score because they were able to break that press. And when they were able to kind of getting those chances. Because I think Charlotte realized after the first half, we can't let them continuously go wide to Payne.
Right. What did so one of the things I did want to call out too, because Grant, you mentioned Mauro Sechera earlier. He's looking much stronger to me in these past couple of games, I think, than that. I don't know. It's strange because you have a guy that, career hampered by ACL injuries, and you'd never be able to know by watching him play.
Right. And I think you're exactly right. He's putting himself into a position to where we can't keep him off the field. He's playing that well. With the combination of his size and technical skill, he gives you kind of a unicorn up front. Where because he's somebody that you saw, he picked up a foul in the first half because a guy ran past him. He just kind of gave him a shove and Cease went flying, did a somersault. He sold it well, but still, I think the fact that you look at Mauro and think he's kind of a tall, wiry guy, but he's pretty strong. You see, he's very strong for his size, and and he doesn't get pushed around. Like I mentioned in that play in the box, he kept the defender off of him, while he kind of collected the ball at his feet and was able to turn and get a great shot off. And I think that's all good signs. I mean, that those knees are healthy and that he's feeling good. And like I said, he's playing himself into a position to where he's not going to be able to stay off the field.
That's kind of interesting because Bartman did come back. So it's kind of like, now you have options, which is
right. And both of them give you a little bit of a different thing, right? Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. One more question for you, Kyle, and then we'll let you go about your Sunday. Thanks for joining us. So we outshot them 17-8, 7 on target. Chaney had 7 shots. Sechera behind him with 3, but at times it had some feel of last year's lack of productivity. Now I don't think it was entirely down to that's our MO and that's kind of the game that likes to play, because he's obviously shown that he's able to react and be more fluid this season, I think, than we were last year. But again, a high amount of passing, high percentage. So we had 525 passes to their 376, stringing together 84% passing percentage. Did it feel to you like this is sort of deja vu from last season, or is it more that we got to see the Austin Pack show and the Independents really, their defense is hard to break down?
I'd say in the first half, it was more of same as last year. I would say it was kind of more of that. There was a moment, and I don't remember if it was Derek or Cello. One of them had, I think it was Derek. They got at the edge of the box, were able to kind of dribble inside, get to the top of the box, and probably should have just pulled the trigger and tried shooting it, but instead decided to pass wide. And I think it was more of that in the first half is what I noticed. But then in the second half, I think once they were able to get more possession and string together more time on the ball, then it became more of the, all right, we're seeing what's there. We're seeing the creation. We're seeing the patience. So I would say the first half was definitely MO of same as last year. And I think as Charlotte decided to go more compact, we were able to kind of see there's at least something there. There's glimpses. And I think the subs also helped with that. You're getting guys that are more comfortable on the ball, more wanting to create, and a Connerty and an Amadeus, Nazim coming on. I think there's more of that you could see as opposed to the first half where it was kind of like, all right, we're looking for the best. We're looking for the best opportunity and not a good opportunity is what it kind of felt like. And with Chaney's shots, I mean, think like 3 or 4 of those were headers. So it's like when you're going up in the air and you're trying to get your head on the ball in a battle in the box, I'm not as concerned with that because at least he's winning those headers. So
Yep.
I would say it's kind of a little bit of both, but I would say the second half is more we're seeing what the plan is in place as opposed to the first half, which was all right, this is kind of feeling like last year where we're just passing around too much and not taking chances.
Yeah. What about you, Mitch? Do you agree?
Yeah, for the most part. And I think it's less the tale of two halves. And I think it's the first 30 versus the last 60. I'm looking at the game flow right now in terms of expected goals. Before the first 30 minutes, we didn't have a single opportunity that went over 0.1 goals expected. And they had 3. They actually had all 3 of those chances above 0.2 with a couple of them up at 0.3, which is very good. And we kept those out of the net.
Yeah.
After the 30-minute mark, they didn't have a single opportunity above 0.1, and I think they had one above 0.5 or 0.05, while we had 6 opportunities above 0.1, including one, it looks like around the 82nd minute or so, that was 0.3. And so after that first 30 minute, we kind of just held them, and I think that if we can just continue to to Kyle's point, if we can keep them out of the net, imagine we don't give up a goal the rest of the season.
Yeah.
We have 24 draws and we squeak out an extra goal in 8 games. We get 8 wins. That's 48 points. That's playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the goals will come. We have the opportunities, obviously. I think that we have a team that's much more capable of finishing than we had last year. It's just a matter of making it happen. So I think that's a big point. And I think another point that's been overlooked by pretty much everyone is the weather. The weather was really, really crazy yesterday. And I saw a few of, I saw Cheney slip on at least 2 occasions specifically. And I have to imagine that may have played a factor as well as to how you approach the game, how, you
Absolutely.
get those opportunities.
Yep.
Maybe that's part of it. Weather isn't always going to be a factor. So maybe one or both teams squeak out a goal if, it's not raining or the sun is at this weird point where you can barely see because it's shining off of the rain coming down at the same time. You can't see anything. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's part of it. So we'll have to see as the season goes on. I don't think that there's a ton that is worth taking negatively from this match. Just
I would agree. I would agree.
Between the weather and the fact that we're playing top of the table Charlotte and Austin Peck playing out of his mind.
Yep.
I think there's only positives that are worth taking out of this.
I tend to agree there. Well, Kyle, thanks so much for joining us. Always insightful coming from you. We don't have a episode of NDZ Live this week just because of the quick turnaround. But we'll talk with you real soon.
All right. See you guys
later.
See you, man.
See you.
One thing I have to comment on, I kind of mentioned this in our group chat this morning. A couple of things. I feel okay. So some people might take this wrong way. I don't give a shit. Thank fuck that we don't wear white away anymore.
Seriously. Yeah.
Watching, Charlotte looked like a discount Tottenham last night. They are a discount Tottenham. Yeah, I mean they're leaving
Chicken Ball FC.
Yeah, they're leaving elbows and and feet in, selling tackles or selling fouls very, very well.
Or not so well in that case of Cheney taking apparently murdering Omar Sis.
Oh my god,
leaving him to writhe in pain on the field for a solid 2 minutes after not being touched at all.
I love the referee too, saw that and was just like, no, it's fine.
I want to give a shout out to the ref because that was one of the better ref games that we've had in a very long time.
Agreed. I thought he did a fantastic job.
There were only maybe 1 or 2 times where I was just like, I don't know about that.
He missed the handball.
But
yeah, Jervis would have given like at least 3 reds in that game last night.
Yeah, missed a handball in the 10th minute.
That one.
But
there was one where I think that people were shouting for a handball. I think it was in the box, but his hands were at his side. So
yeah.
I was like up there. I'm like, I can see why that one wasn't called.
Yeah, the one in the 10th was definitely a handball. Because we were on the capo stand at that point and turned around and saw it, and then I'm like, yeah, it was pretty obvious. But other than that, I thought he did a great job. I would agree with you, Mitch. I thought he was really good. So
kept the game in control because it very well could have spun very, very out of control.
Yep. I agree, especially that battle between Spielman and Cheney that was going on all night.
Oh yeah,
that
seems to be a theme, right? Like there seems to be like every game there's going to be a guy on their defense that's going to be kind of like poking at Cheney.
Trying to get in his head, yeah.
Yeah, I mean we saw it in Omaha, we saw it in Lexington, Greenville. I mean they tried a little bit, but we were just blowing them off the door. I think they were more worried about just stopping the bleeding of their, what was going on. But yeah, I think that's going to be a theme, and kudos to I think Chain knows that. Like he knows that like this is what's going to happen. And that's part of his game too. I think he enjoys that, so. And so he's doing a great job.
If you can get in the head of one or multiple players, that's one or multiple players that aren't going to be focusing on your teammates.
Oh yeah,
make some runs or whatever. So.
Yeah, I think he's done really, really well to like. I do think it's part of his game. I kind of wonder if that's something he took away from his time playing in Mexico, because that's a lot more of a staple of the Mexican, like at least in the pro ranks of the Mexican game.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not being sold on it, which is fantastic, and he kind of given it back the other way too, which is actually kind of nice to see from one of our players.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I do want to call out Cheney has 3 yellows already this season in 4 games. I think actually one of those might have been in the Open Cup game. But two yellows in 4 games. I mean, I think that might partially be because he's just like
he's kind of a magnet for that.
He makes one wrong move and the ref will notice it after stuff.
I would say that's Mitrovic level right there.
Yep.
So.
Yep. All right. We are happy to welcome Rob Chaplin from Talking Flock to the seance. How are you this morning, Rob?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, 1 point is fine. I'd be feeling better with all 3, but the Austin Pack show last night.
Right. Where did this guy come from? I know he was with Charlotte last year. Did he play with them last year? And I just wasn't paying attention.
He was with the team. It's weird because I was actually. I was watching a game with Trevor earlier this year, and he was just like, "Who's this guy in goal?" I'm like, "I don't actually know." It's like Pack. Like I feel like I know the name, but I can't place it. Looked him up. Austin Pack. Like, oh, yeah. He was in the league last year. Yeah, he was with Charlotte.
He was with Charlotte. I don't know if he played or if he made that much of an impression, but man, he had the last game he played, he had 4 legit save of the week saves in one game. It was incredible. And on the last night, he's got a handful more. It was
something I noted. The league account put out their save of the week for last week, and I don't know if I have ever seen the league give 2 nominations to the same player in the same game. Yeah. In a week, I've never seen that. If they give 2 nominations to a player, it's always been from 2 separate games. They gave it to him for 2 separate saves in their game against Omaha last week, which is insane, but also deserved.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting about Pack is he was part of the very late before they went defunct NASL, playing for Puerto Rico FC.
Mm-hmm.
He's also played for Timbers 2 and before moving to the Riverhounds, and then Independence. Weirdly signed for Hartford Athletic, but was only with them for 6 months. Played 5 games, and then back to the Independence again. So kind of an interesting career, playing in PDL and then NASL, and then onto the championship, and now he's with Charlotte. Also, his college profile picture, I just put it in the chat. What a head of lettuce on that guy. You'd never know from seeing him now, but he looks like he could have been a body double for Lorenzo Lamas in Renegade.
Oh wow.
He looks like he could have been the lead singer of a band like 10cc or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the lead singer from Winger is calling, right now to sue for royalties, and so.
Yep.
That's
so Rob, question for
hair.
you. On paper, kind of outside of maybe Austin Pack's just playing out of his mind recently, but on paper it seems like we should have taken it to them. But they're only missing one player due to injury, but they played 4 games in 10 days, including playing 120 minutes on Tuesday night. Is Charlotte really that good, or are we still looking to find some form?
I think we're still looking to find some form. I think Charlotte is going to come back to earth any minute. I think they've gotten a little bit lucky. They've obviously played well. They've played well defensively, as Kyle was alluding to, and just which is surprising, right? That's not what anybody thought was going to happen with Charlotte this year. But they have sort of compacted themselves defensively, and last night clearly we're happy to concede possession and defend and try to counter, which they seem to. They didn't really mount any real counters until late in the game, but in any case, Austin Pack is out of his mind, obviously, and we were just off a little bit. I mean, we had of our 17 shots, of which 11 were inside the box, which tells you that as you guys were alluding to before, in the second half, late in the first half, into the second half, we were really breaking them down. Like we were getting in behind, we were getting to dangerous spots, and then either Jacob Kroll hammering the post or hammering the crossbar, or Cheney putting a header, 6 inches wide, or Austin Pack making a tremendous save. So, and I think you're not going to rely on that kind of goalkeeping for the entire season.
Right.
So I think Madison, over the course of 90 minutes last night, figured out their defensive structure, and we figured out how to break them down. And I think the rest of the league will figure it out soon. You can't take anything away from Charlotte. They're having a really hot start to the season.
Yeah.
But I think they will drift back downward. We're the last 2 unbeatens. We're unbeaten in 4, they're unbeaten in 7, which obviously is a different thing. But I don't mind, honestly. I don't mind the kind of the slow burn that we're Madison starting with. I think we'll get hot. I think that, as you guys were saying, the goals will start coming, and we'll continue the defensive dominance, and I think it bodes well for the season for us.
Rob, one of the questions I wanted to ask, we've kind of been talking a lot about Austin Pack here, and you mentioned he's kind of an unknown. Wasn't really highly, rated or anything like that. He's playing extremely well right now.
Yeah.
And kind of dovetailing off your last point, do you think what we're going to see is is he just out of his head right now? Just like if he has a game where he gives up 4, is that something where will that be, or could we see Austin Pack kind of come back to earth a little bit more here? Because like Mitch said, right now he's a player of the year candidate without question.
No doubt. I think there's going to be a sort of a regression to the mean, sort of. I don't think he's going to fall apart if he has a bad game. He's been, as Andrew was detailing, he's been playing professional goalkeeper for a long, long time.
Right.
One bad game's not going to throw him off that hard, But there's going to be a normalization, I have to think, especially he's older, right? He's been around a long time. He's playing great for the past month and a half. Is that going to last 6 months? I don't know. I suppose it could, but I doubt it. And I think the more teams figure out the Charlotte defense, the fact that he has to make 4 or 5 spectacular saves in a game doesn't speak particularly well to their, to to their defensive, which again they were defending well, but not quite well enough,
Right.
and leaving Austin Pack to clean up. And I just don't know that he's going to do that forever, all season. You know, I just don't think it's feasible to expect that. You certainly can't bank a season on that for Charlotte.
What did you guys make of Aiden Macias in the 10 role with Jaden out?
Well, there were two things that led to that, right? There was, first of all, Jaden being out and also Wheels being back.
Right.
In the 6, which allowed Macias to go somewhere else. I was surprised to see it. The way Matt described it after the match was sort of him and Morrow as dual 10s or dual false 9s.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I mean, the more help Cheney can have, the more options our midfield can have, the better. You know, I think Aiden is a very good hold up guy, as we saw in his first 3 matches at playing at the 6. I don't know. I didn't see a lot of pace, but which is fine. You know, I think what I did see, and this is true of all the guys, really, a lot of tenacity. A lot of our dual success rate was like 56%, something like that. We won 56% of the duels, which is great to see. It seemed like we always had them outnumbered, and it seemed like we were always first to the 50-50 balls. Obviously not always, because 55%, but still, I was seeing a lot of really, really smart anticipation. You guys were talking about Morrow and how Morrow's playing well. There was one particular moment I saw where Charlotte, is first half, Charlotte had a kind of a long ball, and Morrow was in the middle of the field and anticipated it all the way out to the left. And just, I don't remember who was the intended recipient of that pass, but he just muscled him off with the shoulder. And just to see the anticipation, to see like, okay, I'm going to go, it's 20 yards from here, but I'm going to go get it. And I'm going to hammer this guy off the ball. Just that kind of tenacity is something we didn't see last year. That kind of sort of will, you know, something we didn't see as much last year. And that's all good. And I think, you know, your question about Aiden, I think you saw that from him for sure as well.
I think it was obvious too. We missed Jaden yesterday.
No doubt.
You know, I think, you know, you see a game like that where he's not, you know, you just miss his creativity and his movement and his the way he can place balls. And you know, I think you really saw like that he is the talisman kind of, you know, for this offense. So
yeah, you really did. Are we surprised that we didn't see Francis in for him?
I actually was. I thought we would see Francis. We talked about it on New Dogma. I thought, you know, and I think Andrew, I think you mentioned too that we thought that, you know, we'd see him too. So I was surprised that we didn't see him. But
you know, I think part of it again comes back to this system that Matt's playing, this 2 6s and 2 10s sort of system. And Francis, I think, is not quite yet a like for like swap with Jaden. What I found interesting is that we definitely changed our tactics up a little bit last night. We were playing the ball like a lot more aerially through the middle and in from the wings, which is something like I haven't seen as much in recent games.
And doing it well and like actually hitting the targets. Yeah, right. Those weren't like the hopeful, let's see what happens long balls. Those were intentional and well played.
When we win, it helps when we win our aerial duels. We won 3/4 of our aerial duels yesterday.
Yes. Yep.
Like if you get like we've got taller guys who can go up and get those balls, which we didn't have.
When your average team height goes up by about 3 inches.
Crazy how that works.
Yeah. Something you know I thought was kind of interesting. Like you mentioned, Mitch, 15 aerial duels won last night at 75%. I have to call, like, Cheney had a really outstanding game last night.
Yeah.
At least I feel like anyway. He was off in that target. I don't remember a ball that he didn't get to that was brought over the top or in from the wings. Is finishing. I feel like they were all over him all night, so it was kind of difficult for him to get shots off, but a lot of his shots
still did.
Yep. I also got to call out that sort of like he single-handedly kept us in the game with a blocked shot after Barron mishandled the ball just outside the 6-yard box.
Yeah. I was gonna mention that about Barron had a pretty good game also, except for that moment when he got a little bit casual.
Yep.
He had one in the first half too, where he kicked it off of Bennett. Where Bennett was coming up and kicked it right off of.
He's got to get careful about that, and I'm sure Matt will talk to me about this. But like last year, when teams got wise to the fact that Phil was kind of prone to that, they started pressuring him more.
Yep.
And if anybody from Knoxville watching this game last night is going to be like, get in Burns' face because he will mess it up. You know. But can I say one other thing about Chaney though?
Sure.
I don't know. Did you guys watch Welcome to Wrexham?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I know I kind of resisted because it felt like a soccer 101. You know, I'm an advanced soccer fan, but I am catching up on it, and I'm just getting to the January transfer window of that 2021-22 season when they got Ollie Palmer from Wimbledon, and one of the fans that they have been following all season said something like, you know, lower level football, you needed one big horrible person.
Yep.
And Ollie Palmer's our big horrible person. And I was like, oh, that's Christian Chaney. He's our big horrible person.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's big and strong and is going to muscle you off the ball and is going to look right in the referee's eyes and chirp at him all night long. He's like intimidating to the referees and to the opposition. And he's just creating chaos in the box and has 2 goals in 4 games, which is an awfully good start.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, Rob, what if like Cello at least on FOTMob was man of the match last night, 85% passing, two shots on target, 3 of 3 tackles, 1. How important has he been to this team so far this season?
Well, he's the guy that if you're not looking at those sort of FOTMob stats, you're not going to, if you're just sort of a casual fan, you're not going to necessarily notice him, but he has absolutely been critical. I did see, team wide 85% passing accuracy last night. Yep. Which owes a lot to your midfield, to Wheels and to Cello, but he's obviously the guy on free kicks. He's his corners were beautifully placed and beautifully bent, and you feel like the set pieces are going to start to come when you got a guy who can deliver like Aaron Molloy could, which we kind of didn't have last year. But somebody I can't remember. Might be one of you guys talking about the difference between this level and the top levels is decision making, right? Yep. Like it's skills, obviously, technique, but also just the players at the top level make the right decision nearly 100% of the time, and Cello seems to always make the right decision. Which what I've liked about the build up this year, that especially at a game like last night when we're not trying to counter. We're trying to possess and build up. Yep. The build-up has not been predictable.
Yeah.
Right. It's not been. It's sometimes it's wide. Sometimes it's Steven trying to get in from the right or Derek from the left. Sometimes it's down the center channels. Sometimes there's an unexpected switch, and a lot of that has to do with Cello and getting his head up, getting on the ball, holding the ball, getting his head up, and making a clever, creative pass to create for other guys, and that's that kind of energy. We had it a little bit last year with some of our with Mikey and Wheels in the middle, obviously still, but yeah, he's been a tremendous addition.
Yeah, I agree.
I do want to say real quick. Cello, at least watching him in the press box, Cello was everywhere yesterday. Absolutely everywhere. Like it didn't matter where the ball was. He was there. Like to the point of there were a couple times where he was basically running into one of his teammates, just like, and I'm just like looking at him like, Cello, what are you doing? Like you you don't need to be right there. You already got a guy right there. He was literally all over the pitch. It didn't matter where on the pitch it was. If it was in the corners, it was in the middle of the fields, along the wings. He was there like all the time. There's a reason why he was our man of the match, according to FOTMob, because he touched the ball so damn much, because he was right next to the ball all the time. Like Who are you going to pass it to? May as well pass it to Cello. He's right here. He always is.
Yep. One thing I do want to call out is that Charlotte were without Oberton last night. It was arguably one of their best players. The reason I bring him up is because top 5 in chances created this season, starting at number 5, Tate Robertson for Lexington, Oberton for Charlotte, Arthur Rogers for Hailstorm, Jackson Corey for Tormenta. Guess who's number 1?
Jaden Nolan.
Cello with 14.
Wow.
14 chances created in 4 games. Not too shabby.
And to your point, Mitch, about him being everywhere on the field, 74 passes last night, 85% passing accuracy. So the accuracy is one thing, but just the number of touches, like the entire thing is running through him right now.
That number of successful passes, I'm pretty sure he had more successful passes last night than say, some of our forwards did all of last year.
Yep.
Like
Probably, yeah.
I don't like. I know for a fact he had more successful passes last night than Strang had attempted passes last year.
I was going to say, did Strang know how to pass?
He knew how to pass to himself.
He
had that one really nice
had
pass to
one
himself
assist.
that led to a goal. But other than that, no.
One more thing about last night's game, or a couple actually. Matt found himself with his first yellow card of the season, I believe.
That was not
Was that Matt or was that
That
JP?
was not Matt. It was JP. It was very it got credited to
Couldn't
Matt on the USL1 site.
Yeah.
It was very, very clearly JP who got that card.
The fan
I
reaction.
can't imagine why.
He was chirping. He was
yeah.
chirping.
The
Yeah,
fan
I
reaction
can't
was
imagine why.
If you guys caught the yellow card on the actual broadcast, the fan reaction was just gold.
Yeah, it's so good.
People stood up immediately, just booing super loudly, pointing, shouting at the official, and the commentator even is like, "Well, they can't give the crowd a yellow card."
We were all laughing. We were all laughing up in the box. It was great. Like you can see JP is like standing in front of Matt and Neil, and just like his arms are up like wide, like he's just like, give it to me, buddy. Like I'm gonna yell at you, and you're deserving of it.
Yeah,
give it to me.
Yeah. One last thing about last night's game, and then we can kind of talk, hopefully, a little bit about the Knoxville game coming up on Wednesday. But Charlotte defense was very busy last night. They had 24 clearances.
24 clearances,
And that 70th minute goalmouth save by Flanagan, like it was sort of a similar sort of last chance stop to Cheney's earlier in the game. But Prentice, I think, would have had that rebound off pack and buried it. And I feel like Flanagan saved the game for them right there.
Yeah.
Prentice has also been.
He's looked good.
Been a very, very nice addition.
He's looked real good. I mean, we've talked about him on our show previously. Again, another guy that, like I mentioned with Morrow, is playing well enough to where it's like we're not going to be able to keep him off the field. You gotta find a way to get him on the field, because every time he's on the field, he's doing something.
I can't remember the last time we've had such an embarrassment of riches where we can just like pick a guy off the bench and be like, all right, you're up, bud. And they'll be able to step right in and be there. Like it's always been in the past.
That's the dream.
It's just like our bench is just like, all right, well, hope we can do something with some of these guys, hopefully, we can keep ourselves in it or whatever. Not like that. Like everyone, it seems like is a threat.
Yeah.
Well, and it opens up so many more possibilities when you're, with your roster, during the games, because if you're always running the same 3 subs out there, because because it's a talent issue, that gets that you're limited with what you can do in late in games and with your subs. Having the depth we have, that gives Matt and the staff the complete ability to use substitutions however they need to in that point of the game.
Yeah.
Was
Which
like,
they have not been using all of their subs.
no,
Right.
and that's another thing too. It's like they've not been using all the subs in the game, but it's just, if we need to be defensive, we have defenders we can put in. If we need to have more of an attacking presence, we've got attackers that we can throw in to do that. And that's just, I think that just allows you to be much more of like a complete football and play as the term is, total football. That's total football, right there. And so,
if I didn't know that you don't have cable or don't have Apple TV, Grant, I would mention something about Ted Lasso this week and total football, but I won't.
okay.
Let's one other thing I found kind of interesting rewatching this game, the amount of words that the commentator shortened. Just
Burn ship.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Burn ship.
Burn ship. Back
Burn
to
ship.
He also
called him that at least 7 times before he started calling him Shipman. My favorite was the one that you brought up, though.
Yeah, Breeze Steves.
Breeze Steves.
Just wonderful. This is the kind of quality you get in the lower divisions in the U.S. It's just like not only great commentary, but a little comedic relief.
Are we going to be called Format pretty soon?
Yep.
I am certain, and speaking specifically on that, I'm certain that someone in the front office is going to be giving Vista a call about this and being like, you guys can't do this, because I will tell you that this is something in the green room. We had if you were listening to the broadcast early for the US Open Cup game, early in the broadcast, consistently the team was referred to by the commentators solely as forward for a good portion, and someone came up to the box, I can't remember if it was Evan or Connor, and was just like, they need to be called forward Madison. You cannot just call them forward. So I am certain that if Connor was listening to that broadcast, he is going to be like, this cannot happen again.
Yeah.
Good old Breeze Steves.
Yeah, going down Breeze Steves for the old forward match.
Go down and watch a Breeze Steves.
Rob, wanted to pick your brain a little bit about this game that we have coming up on Wednesday. We'll see former Flamingo Jake Keegan down in Knoxville. How do you feel? How do you think, especially after having to turn it around so quickly?
Yeah, I mean they have to turn it around even quicker. They're playing tonight,
right?
In Fresno,
right?
Which is the worst place to have to travel to and from.
Right. So they'll be feeling it also.
If I remember too, it's really hot in Fresno right now.
Yeah.
So
I don't understand the league schedule. I mean, we can talk more about that another time, but it's very, very weird that next weekend's game are all on Friday.
Right.
For some reason, I don't know if that's just a thing they're going to try or what, but we don't even have it. We have another week and a half with no game after this one. And we have 3 more weeks before we have another home game. But anyway, Knoxville, obviously, a new team in this league. They're not a new team, but they've, self-promoted into our league and looked good against Lexington and have not looked particularly good since. I admit I haven't watched it a lot, but, beat Lexington, lost Drew. Did they draw Fuego last time they played them? That's the other thing. They're playing Fuego twice in
I don't get it.
the first month.
Give me 1 second. I've got.
They did that with Richmond and Greenville too.
Right.
Like they've already played each other twice. Like what the fuck?
What is it?
Gotta love it.
Well, they lost to Chattanooga.
They beat
Lexington, lost Chattanooga. Drew Fuego lost to Tormenta. Which no shame in losing to Tormenta right now. But
Tormenta is they will win big or they will lose big, and there is no in between.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's true.
That's just how their season's going. I think Knoxville, they're kind of reeling, and if they lose to Fuego, even if they
gotta hammer them.
But especially if they draw this, because Fuego's the worst team in the league right now, in my estimation.
You just watch them
we
play.
gotta
They're
go-
not a good team. It's like
We
Fuego
gotta
is
go
not
for
a
it,
good
bro.
team. No.
Yeah.
If you know,
I mean, on paper, but again, this is another one of those on paper we should win, but you gotta do it on. It doesn't happen on paper; it happens on the field. Now, I don't know. I think roster depth is going to help us here. I think you will see a couple of changes probably. Wheels was getting pretty tight last night, and so we might be back to seeing Aiden Macias at the 6 with Jaden back. Jaden's well rested, obviously. That'll be nice. And other than that, I don't know what other changes there would be, but yeah, quick turnaround's always tough. But then you don't have another game for like 10 days after that, so you can push guys a little bit, maybe.
Yep.
And we don't have that whole like open cup thing to worry about anymore. So let's get that out of the way.
I do want to mention. Yeah, you mentioned roster depth. Like our roster is far deeper than Knoxville's is. I mean, you can just look at their forward core versus.
They're starting Jake fucking Keegan. Come on.
They're starting Jake Keegan, and we have 3 or 4 guys who are better scorers than Jake Keegan
in the midfield.
I will say this. So just some like we could probably talk like ad nauseum against Knoxville. I don't think we've seen nearly enough of them to really make like I don't think anybody's seen nearly enough of them to really make like a solid prediction. But if you had to make a prediction, how do you think this game's going to shake out?
Give them a little home field advantage. They do have they were able in their season in League 2 to build up a really, a good, strong supporter culture. So give them a little home field advantage, but I still think we take it at 2-1 or 3-1. I think some of the chances that we had last night will be goals against Knoxville.
Yep. I'm gonna go 2-0 or 3-1. Same. I'm right with Rob. I'm with Rob.
I was thinking the same thing. I think that if and this is all a momentum thing. I think that if Knoxville can win tonight against Fuego, I think that they can draw against us. I think that's a possibility. I think if they draw, if they draw certainly against Fuego, I think that we can easily pull out a win. If they lose, maybe they come in with a little bit of swagger. But I think that if they draw or lose against Fuego, we need to be at their throats. We need to take it to them. Maybe we let them come at us for the first 5 minutes or so, but after that point, we need to get at them and just not do that. And part of that too is they've got their coach. He's been coaching for a very long time. Mark McKeever. He has never coached professionally before this season. And so this is a brand new experience for him. They've got a very young roster. They have Jake Keegan. So we need to just take it to him.
Yeah.
Blow him off the field.
And I think too, regardless of how they play, I think Forward Madison has to come into this match looking to get 3. I mean, because we need 3. It's like, you're at a point where it's like, getting draws is great, and you always want to draw on the road. Then but against an opponent like this, I think you have to go into this game with the approach. We're coming home with 3, and that's what we're gonna do.
And I think that's the mentality most of our guys have.
Yeah,
so, which is I think that's a change from previous seasons as well.
Absolutely.
A couple other stats that lean toward this, like we're gonna win this on paper. In 4, we both teams now have four matches. Knoxville has 0 clean sheets. We have 2, so they've conceded at least one goal in every game, even the game that they won. We have 62 shots, which is middle of the table. They only have 49, so they're not creating as many chances either. Our pass accuracy is 81%, which it was boosted last night. There's one game where we're much lower. Theirs season-wide is 78. So, we've got them on paper. We got to come with the right mentality, which we've seen all but every game but one. We've seen the right mentality. I think.
Yep.
Yeah, the Open Cup loss was, Grant and I talked about this on Talking Flock. It was a mentality loss.
Yep.
Right. And if we come into this, we're gonna come in here and we're going to boss you. I think we can take it.
I think the thing I'm most concerned of, with them not having a lot of scoring and a lot of explosiveness up front, and being a young squad, is that this might be a game where they're gonna park the bus. Like they're just gonna play for a point and just park the bus and let us come in. And my hope is that we'll create shots. As we've seen, we've been able to create opportunities every game. To not get frustrated if they're not going in early on, because I think it's going to be pretty obvious that that they will be more of a defense. If they come out and are in a high press, I'll be very surprised and will fully expect us to score a goal within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised, and that is the reason I won't be surprised. Is that's basically what I've seen them play up to this point, is a high press, and that's kind of what McKeever's MO is more of a high press. If they try to park the bus for 90 minutes, they will lose. I guarantee we will score at least one against them if they try parking the bus. It's just not going. I mean, I think we're going to score at least one against them regardless. If we come out of Knoxville, like result notwithstanding, whether it's a win or a loss.
Yeah.
If we come out of this without having scored a goal against Knoxville, I think that's failure.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rob.
We'll chat to you soon.
Yep, sounds good.
Enjoy Sunday.
Yeah, if you have not gotten on the Talk and Flock train, make sure you go out, find them on whatever podcast or service that you subscribe to. Subscribe, like, leave reviews, all that stuff. Those guys are doing great work. And thanks again to Rob for coming and sharing his insights. You know, we just mentioned, guys, and just I want to share some sort of interesting early season stats. And this is just kind of general overall stats. While I do think it's extremely early for us to really draw a ton of conclusions, I think it tells us something about the way that this team is playing so far this season. We mentioned turning some of those shots into goals. Right now, we are second place in the league overall as a team for shots on target per match at 5.8. Omaha is the only team ahead of us. We are also second place overall for accurate long balls per match. Accurate crosses, first place in the league at 5.8 per game. Second place for interceptions overall in the league. Lexington is ahead of us. Another interesting stat, not super surprising, but something that I think shows just how good a keeper Bernd has been so far. Bairn, we're first place for saves per match in the league with 4. And Hailstorm is actually in second place with Charlotte in third. One thing I do want to call out, just because I don't think we've ever actually been in this position before, on FOTMob anyway, we are top of the league as far as overall team rating with 7.13. North Carolina and Omaha behind us.
So what you're saying is we're the best team in the league.
At the moment, according to FOTMob, we are also third for goals per match and second for goals conceded per match. So right now we're playing well. We need to keep this up going into this next run of games. Time will tell. I feel like, early signs are very positive though. What do you guys make of like how do you think the stats back up what you've been seeing on the pitch? Absolutely.
I think that, to use an analogy, I think this team is going to be more Cadillac than Ferrari. And what I mean by that is, the Ferrari will start off 0 to 60 real quick and be humming, and whereas a Cadillac, it may take a little bit of time to get humming, but when it's running, there ain't no stopping it. I mean, it's a machine, and things are going smooth, and so I think that this is all building to the team we're going to see at the end of the year, which I think is going to be a very dangerous club, and that nobody in USL 1 will want to play. So,
I'd like to refute your analogy about the Cadillac because I used to have a Cadillac that would randomly at stop signs just turn itself off. So
I don't know that that's necessarily refuting because I've
That's what
seen this
I
team
mean.
do that
We're not
too.
talking about it, going fast. I mean, but like when you had that thing up to 75, Mitch, it was humming.
oh yeah,
So,
well it was a boat as
see?
well. It was a 91 Cadillac DeVille with leather
There you
bench
go.
seats.
Oh, man.
It was
See?
not going to be stopped if it was rolling.
That's my point,
Very
Mitch.
good
I
point.
mean,
But no, I think I agree. I mean the stats bear it out. If you look at if you look at every game we've had, we've been better in expected goals in every single game we've played. And I mean, yeah, the eye test bears it out. Some other stats I wanted to throw out there. We have in goals added over the course of the league, we have 4 guys in the top 20. We have where was I looking at here? Jake Kroll at number 8, Morrow at number 9. We have Cheney at 14, and Chelo at 20. So those guys are doing pretty darn good. Cheney is at number 7 in expected goals. Fantastic.
who's number
Chelo,
1?
I believe, is pretty high in expected assists. Yeah, Chelo is number 3 in expected assists, and Jaden is top 10 as well. Expected points added, so based off of goals plus like basically the amount of like the shots that you take, how many points would your team be getting based off of you scoring your expected goals in those games? Cheney's number 2.
Yeah.
His expected points added is 2.12, which is
crazy.
incredible. The only player higher is Mensigan, who's at 2.47.
Yeah,
which
he's been playing kind of out of his mind too.
He's been playing out of his mind, and the fact that Cheney, like the goals will come. The goals will, and you can see it. You can see that the goals will come. Like he's putting himself in dangerous positions, and we're getting the ball to him in those dangerous positions. And
I think the thing is that we're seeing from Cheney too is that he's been a complete player. I mean, he hasn't just been a forward, like Andrew said. I mean, he had a great goal line clearance, and then
that goal line clearance was worth a goal.
Yeah, yep. I mean,
that saved us from losing the game versus the draw. So
yeah, I mean, and then that tackle in the midfield, that sliding was just.
He gave Austin Pack a lot of trouble last night, and I think that's one of the reasons why Spielman was all over Cheney, was just because Cheney's not afraid to go in and a tackle or a 50-50 with a goalkeeper.
No, he's got the body for it. I mean, he's as big as most of those guys. Because usually your goalkeeper is one of the biggest guys in your club, right? And so Cheney's as big as those guys. So it's like that's not a thing for him to body up to one of those guys.
And Pack was going out for balls that he was trying to punch, and he was running directly into Cheney on those balls and falling as soon as he made the attempt and fell into Cheney. And that was what was giving us those second chances that we, it's kind of luck at that point because it matters where the ball falls and do we have a man there? And then do they have the open shot? Which more often than not, that if the ball falls to you, you have a pretty decent shot. But there is that element of luck involved. You can do what you can positioning wise, but you can't be perfect. And I think because it's luck, I think that over the course of the season, as this happens more and more, because I think that this is a thing that will happen more consistently because of how Cheney plays. Because if they don't come out for that ball, Cheney's going to control it somehow, whether he controls it down to himself or he heads it to a teammate. We're going to be getting good chances if they don't come out for it. So as the season progresses, that bad luck that we're getting right now will start to regress to the mean. And we'll start seeing some of those opportunities fall at our guys' feet and eventually go into the net.
I certainly hope so.
There's the great quote is, if you want to improve your luck, just keep working hard. And you'll see. And I think that's what we're going to see is that Cheney, he's a worker. He's a horse, he's going to go and just, grind for as many minutes as he can on the pitch. And I think what Mitch is saying is that towards the end of the season or towards the middle portion of the season, we're going to start seeing games where late in games or in the second half, we're just going to start just bowling over teams because we're just so physical and just beating them up. And we have guys that can run past you too. And I think that that's a great combination when you have burners and bruisers. And so
we've got burners and bruisers, and both can go full 90.
Right. Exactly. And usually for those guys, like they do a little bit of both. Like the burners, like they're pretty physical, and the bruisers like as we saw with Christian Chaney taking off from the goal line and scoring it on that, he likes to get the afterburners going too. So
absolutely.
I think this all goes into something that we've heard from the club as we've talked to these guys, is that they defend together and they score together.
Yep.
That's kind of the team mentality this year, and you really see it in a game like yesterday's. You really saw like that's the team defending together, and and getting a result together, which is good. So
yeah, I agree. I think that's probably as good a place as we'll get for leaving it off this week for the Sunday Séance. Thank you again to everybody who listened in today, and thank you to Kyle Carr and to Rob Chappell. Wow, I almost forgot his name. That's how much beer I had to drink last night, Grant.
We had a lot, especially afterwards. So
yeah, we will take the next 10 days off. Actually, it's almost after this game we don't play again until I think the 13th. So it's a little bit of a layoff.
I think one of the things we'll have to discuss is, do we do a Sunday Séance to recap the Knoxville game?
Yeah, I think we definitely potentially can do that, but keep your eyes peeled. If you are a regular listener, would like to call in, we'll post that stuff up on our Patreon. Thank you again to everybody that backs us on Patreon. It really does help us do what we do and help us connect fans with the club and vice versa. So thank you again to all our Patreon backers. It's $5 a month. Please join up. If you got, it's the price of a latte, right? You don't need all that milk anyway.
Less than a burrito.
Yeah, you don't need all that milk anyway, right? So we will plan to see you all next Sunday as well. There's no NDZ live this week, as Grant and I will be gallivanting around town interviewing people for the next print magazine. But take care of yourselves. Have a great week. Hopefully for 3 points on Wednesday night, and up the fucking Flamingos. We will see you next time.
Be easy, everybody.